A lot of my fellow dumbasses requested it, so now y'all shall receive. Let's learn how to zero a red dot. Now, first things first, the boring stuff, okay? MOA, what the hell is an MOA? An MOA is 1.047 inches at 100 yards, or what we're going to be doing with, since we're using pistol optics, is going to be 1 inch at this example. Now, most of your handguns, your adjustment increments are going to be in 1 MOA increments, which means at 100 yards, each click that you do will travel 1 inch. So what does that mean towards everything else? As you can see by this little chart here, the closer you are, 50 yards, 25 yards, or whatnot, it narrows down that window. So what that means is every click that you do at 100 yards, it will be 1 inch. However, every click that you do at 50 yards, it'll equate to ½ inch, and at 25 yards, it'll equate to ¼ inch. The mathematical equation for that is going to be 100 divided by your distance. I usually do my zeros at 15 yards, so I will divide 100 by 15, which equals roughly about 6.66666. And those are going to be my click increments. Can't have 0.6 clicks, so that's just going to be a whole click over. Just round up to the next whole number, and then you'll have your click adjustment. Now, if you have an easy number like 25 or 10, 100 divided by 25 is just going to be 4. So that's just going to be 4 clicks, equating to roughly about 1 inch. So if you need 1 inch whole increments, then you'll just do it that way. At 10 yards, it's just going to be 100 divided by 10, and that's just going to be 10 clicks per 1 inch. Easy. Now, getting set up for this thing, okay, you typically will want to do like a bench rest position. The reason that you want to do a bench rest position is so that it can eliminate as much human error as possible. If you are standing up and just holding up that firearm right there, you can actually have potential for a lot of movement, a lot of human error, a lot of anticipation of whatnot. If you have the bench rest position, you will eliminate a lot of that. A lot of people don't want to hear it, but their gun's probably going to be super accurate, and it's probably not the gun. It's probably the user. For the bench rest position, you don't need anything super fancy. I'm just going to utilize a backpack or something that's a little bit stuffy. That way it can actually get me a good resting position. When you want to position yourself for the bench rest position, you typically don't want to lean it on the little magazine well. It causes a teeter-totter if you do so, and it can cause another deviation point. What you want is to remove your elbows and your shoulders from the equation and just have your wrists to do the adjustments afterwards. This will limit most of your human error. Get a nice, good, clean position, and then you should be nice and stable. Now that we established the bench rest position, now we are going to talk about the reticle, okay? If you have a MRO type system where you can actually change out the reticles, just try to keep it at the dot only. If you have it at the dot only, it takes away a lot of that fuzziness, making it a little bit easier for you to actually focus on the item. Now that we established the dot by itself, it is going to be a lot less busy on that screen, so we can actually really see what we're actually doing. Don't stare at the freaking dot. Stare at the actual object itself. Bring the dot into your view. If you stare at the dot, that little tiny 2 MOA dot is going to look like this. A big massive blur. If you want that big massive blur, that's exactly what's going to happen. You want to turn the dot's brightness down as much as possible to the point where you can still see it, but it's not going to obstruct. As you can see, when I'm turning down the dot brightness, it is going to be a lot smaller in thickness. That makes it a lot finer so that we can actually make the necessary adjustments a lot easier so we can see a little bit better. Once again, do not stare at the red dot, dumbass. Now, taking a look at the dials right here, okay, you will notice R and then counterclockwise or U counterclockwise, okay? Don't get yourself all super confused on that. That just means where you want the next shot placement to actually go towards, okay? So R counterclockwise that way, that means that I want my shots to go right. If you stare at the dot, it is going to go left. Don't be a dumbass and stare at the dot. That's going to screw you up big time. Literally just follow these instructions. You'll be perfectly fine. Next up, we're going to be talking about our shot grouping, okay? If you notice right there, that is my 3 to 5 shot placement. You want to do 3 to 5 shots in order to eliminate a lot of that user error. If you do 1 shot at a time, there could be a possibility that you actually just flinched or something. Even the best shooters are going to flinch every once in a while. So that way you can actually get a good average. Now in this case, you do notice that the grouping is going to be low 3 inches and left roughly about another 2 inches, okay? So we're gonna have to do those adjustments. I did this thing out at roughly about 15 yards, measured with my rangefinder. So in order to find out that calculation for it, 100 yards divided by 15 yards, that's gonna equate to about 6.6. So that's gonna be about 7 clicks per inch. So what we'll need is to move 2 inches to the right. So we're just gonna look at that dial like we did earlier. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. That got us right to where we want to for the most part, okay? Now we got to go down 3 inches. So that's going to be 7 times 3, 21 clicks, okay? So we just got to go up 21 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. It's not always going to be super perfect, but it will get you close to where you actually need to. You're going to do another 3 to 5 shot grouping in order for you to actually confirm and make those minor adjustments afterwards, okay? Once we establish that grouping, constantly shooting, constantly repeating, constantly shooting, constantly repeating, you will be able to actually get that to where it actually needs to go. That's if you don't have like a laser or whatnot, okay? If you have a laser, all you really got to do is point that laser towards the distance that you actually want it to, and then just kind of hone in on that 0. With a laser, if you have 15 to 20 yards, that's perfectly fine, but always go back to the range and verify your 0. That way you have the most accurate 0. Lasers are just technology and they can definitely fail on you. Now, if you don't have time for a 0, you can always do a quick 0 using the lollipop method, okay? The lollipop method, essentially what you're doing is lining up your iron sights and then placing the dot right at that tip. That'll get you close to where you want to be, but you also want to be able to verify as soon as possible. Just to give you an example, this way you don't have to do any of the click adjustments or anything. All I'm going to do is bring up the sights real quick first. So my shot placements should be super high, so I'm just going to bring it down. That should bring the dot nice and high for us to actually see. There you go. You can actually start seeing the dot now. I'm just going to turn up the brightness just a little bit so we can see it. And then I am going to bring it over till it's nice and centered off that way. Now this method only works if you have co-witness sights, okay? If you don't have co-witness sights, it's going to be a guesstimate and it's not going to be accurate whatsoever. But with the co-witness sights, you will notice that they will be super accurate for the most part, but you still want to be able to verify by shooting actual live rounds through it. And then that's it. Easy peasy. That's pretty much how you actually zero your optic. It's not super hard or anything. You just got to do a little bit of math sometimes if you want to, or you can just do the fun method by shooting it, adjusting, shooting it, adjusting, shooting it, adjusting. Either way, works perfectly fine. Doesn't hurt my feelings, but I want you to be accurate at least, okay? So utilize those methods, utilize those tips and tricks, and you'll be perfectly fine. Just remember, do it right. Don't be a dumbass. Good luck.